Time has expired. Order.
We all know in a general debate that's the opportunity for either side of the House to talk about the important issues of the day. And we just had 5 minutes of attacking the Labour leader around a bank account used for his pay while he was working with refugee children for the United Nations. And all I have to say, Mr. Speaker, is that in a general debate, when there are issues of the magnitude that we are seeing currently, if that is what that government is obsessed with, then we are all in trouble. And it's typical. It is typical of that government who is so focused on their own cronyism, that is so focused on being hands-off and ignoring that there's any problem out there in New Zealand, that they would focus in that way on that particular issue. But, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we're much more interested in asking questions around what is happening out there for everyday New Zealanders who are struggling to get by, who are struggling with the cost of living. And I know that on that side of the House they will get the same question that we get asked as politicians. We all get asked constantly, why are you in politics? I would ask the government that same question. Why are you in politics? As a government, what are you here to achieve? And I'd welcome any member from that side of the House, because the evidence gives cause for concern, Mr. Speaker. With employment at 6.9% and 175,000 Kiwis looking for work, 85,000 young people not in employment, education or training, clearly this government is not here for job seekers. Clearly, they are not here for those who are currently trying to better themselves and their family by finding work. We are now also, Mr. Speaker, more unequal than we have ever been as a country. And on this side of the House, we are concerned about that. That is, we are not here to sit idly by while the gap between rich and poor grows and we all suffer the consequences of that. Well, meanwhile, the government again throws its hands in the air and says it doesn't really matter. That government is not here for everyday families and particularly vulnerable children who are in the homes of those who are suffering under the inability to find work, get ahead, or even work a job with a minimum wage and can't survive. That government is not here for those families. And today, Mr. Speaker, we're about to again debate the welfare reforms. Now, as much as the Minister, with all of her rhetoric and political spin, tries to claim that she's here for the vulnerable in society, I would yet to hear her give me one example of how her welfare reforms improve the lot of anyone on social security, because frankly, Mr. Speaker, they don't. So why are they here? Well, again, I don't need to ask the rhetorical question when I've got the evidence. They're here to sell assets. And to who? Apparently mum and dad investors. Well, if you mean mum and dad investors in Australia, some of which actually might be New Zealanders, given we've got 50,000 of them fleeing the country every year, well then perhaps, if that is who they're trying to sell them, then Australian mum and dad investors, they might be here for them, to do a deal on pokies with Sky City. Perhaps they're here for that, because we have heard endless discussion, not least led by the Auditor General, about what a dodgy deal the government handled the International Convention Centre. Perhaps they're here to spend more on consultants, Mr. Speaker, because anyone who's involved in financial reviews right now knows the huge amount of money that's being spent by our public sector on consultants, because they are determined to pretend they're cutting back on the civil service whilst throwing money at consultants at the same time. And just today we heard that the Families Commission spent over $400,000 on one individual for not much more than 12 months. That is the amount, Mr. Speaker, of the amount we tend to spend on the White Ribbon campaign on anti-violence, was spent on one contractor in the Families Commission. Mr. Speaker, and what happens when we do have a situation where things are going badly and some government intervention wouldn't go astray? Solid Energy might be an example. We see them throw their hands in the air and equally deny that they had anything to do with it in the first place, which we know from the Official Information Act details that we've got is not actually the case. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask again, why are they here? And who are they here for? Because if we look at all the need in New Zealand, Mr. Speaker, if we look at all the families that need their help, the job seekers that need their help, the young people who are seeking a better future, they are certainly not here for them. And I ask, Mr Speaker, New Zealand should be asking that national government, who are they here for?
Honourable John Banks.
By the look on David Cunliffe's face, it was he who found the lost cash.